This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is Tommy Duquette. Tommy, how's it going?
What's going on, man? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I know we've been connected for a while, and I wanted to definitely get you on because I know all the things you've been doing. So let's just jump right into it. I know you grew up in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. I grew up in greater Boston area, Cambridge, Waltham, that whole area.
And then, tell me a little bit about like your upbringing and how you got into boxing.
No, for sure. Yeah, so I grew up in the projects in Cambridge into a certain age, and I moved to Waltham and went to high school and middle school in Waltham. And as far as boxing is concerned, it's something that ever since I was little, like I was always drawn to it. Movies, right? The fights, stuff like that. And it's actually something that when you go back in my ancestry, it's in my blood. So you go back to my grandfather was a New England professional boxing champion. His father before him, all the way back in the 1920s, was a professional boxer as well. He raised all his kids to fight. But, that kind of skipped a generation, somehow carried over to me. My grandfather, it was my mother's father, died when my mother was really young. And so I never met him, but I just always, I saw some of the pictures and the memorabilia and always heard these stories. And, that sort of was like my subtle push towards boxing. And my actual first day in a boxing gym is a whole nother story. I'm happy to get into if you're interested.
But yeah, you gotta tell me now.
Yeah. All right, cool. So this is definitely a unique boxing story. So, or maybe not. So I have an older cousin, about a year and a half older, which when you're little, that seems like a lot, right?
Yeah.
And he was back in the day in the streets, you could, you'd get a lot of fights and he could throw down, right? So like I grew up always watching him fight, and always winning too. He was just a menace, right? And by the time he got into high school, I was a little bit younger. I was probably still in 8th grade. He was getting in so much trouble with that. The teacher's like, what do we do with this kid? And they found this boxing gym called Boston Boxing in Awesome Brighton. It's still there, Boston Boxing. And they sent him there. So they connected with the coach. We got this kid, he needs to take out some aggression in the gym. So they sent him there and I went with them. And first time I ever went, like I remember, got on the bus, went to this boxing gym, it's gonna be sick. Like I'm gonna watch a fight. Like I'm gonna watch people box each other. Like I'm gonna watch my cousin box with somebody. And anybody who knows boxing and knows these old school gyms knows if you walk in there and it's your first day, you think you're gonna actually box, like these guys will laugh at you, like get the hell out of my gym. Yeah. So we go in there all confident, we're ready from the box, and the coach is like literally is like, who are you? What are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I came to watch. He's like, no, he's like, you can leave or you can grab a jump rope. And that was it. My first day in the gym, did a workout, and pretty much been a part of my life ever since. I competed until the age of 26 in the amateurs, and had over 130 fights, and but I haven't fought in a grip, probably 10 years.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I see all your posts and you're in crazy shape, and that's then tell me a little bit about you're on Team USA. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so first time I cranked the top 10 rankings was in 2008. Went out there and fought a national tournament, and there's some killers in my weight class that year. You think back, you have guys like obviously Jamel Herring, Jose Benavidez, right? David Benavidez's brother. Before David was even a thing, his brother Jose was just a monster in the amateurs, running through everybody. And Frankie Gomez is another great fighter who, undefeated prospect who just gave it up for whatever reason. I don't know if you remember his name when he was first coming up. He was training with Freddie Roach, and he just, he missed weight one fight, and then he kind of just disappeared from the scene. It was a tragedy. But man, that weight class that year, I'm leaving names out. It was stacked. Yeah.
So tell me, like, what is it that what is the, I guess, what's the difference when like some people go pro and then some people just like stop?
Man, it's all about your desire and your will. And what I like to say about boxing is like, if you don't have that desire, it's dangerous. Even if you have it, it's dangerous,
Yeah.
obviously, right? But especially as you go up in levels or you're fighting the pros with smaller gloves, no headgear, like this is life and death, right? And even if it's not like, look, God forbid something like that happens, something tragic like that happens, it's rare. But what's not rare is taking a ton of abuse over the years and having that build up to the point where you're 50 years old when most people are enjoying their lives and traveling and everything else, and you have the brain of, an 80 or 90-year-old, right? So that decision isn't for everybody. When I was young, man, I thought it was for me because I got in this boxing gym and a week goes by, 2 weeks, 1 month, and people are like, man, how long have you been boxing? Like, look, I've been boxing for years. It's just something. I was never that good at anything instantly as I was at boxing. No other sports, right? But right away, probably because it's literally in my DNA, like I throw a hook and go, wow, and make a noise. How the hell is this little kid doing that? You've never even learned. So I was fortunate in that with boxing, and I thought, like every kid, I wanted to be a professional athlete. Right? Every kid wants to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
But as I matured, I grew up like very humbly, no money, single parent household, welfare, food stamps, all that stuff. And I knew I didn't want that for myself. And you know, boxing it's definitely, there's money to be made, but only at the very, very highest level at the top. And it's not that I didn't believe in myself and think that I could do that, but I was just always really interested in entrepreneurship and business. And I looked at these two different games and I said, this is a game, boxing, that I could do until maybe I'm like 35 or something like that. Sometimes people are extending it down to their 40s or whatever. But it's not going to be risk free. Even if you do make it to the top, you make a ton of money. You're taking some risk, but maybe you don't. I know plenty of talented fighters that I used to, be in the circle with and everything else that they didn't make a lot of money, and they're really, really, really good. So I looked at that option. I also looked at the option in the business world, which is something that if I didn't scratch that itch, like I would have regretted, right? If I didn't go down that path. And I said, this is a game I could play, for the rest of my life. It doesn't cause a lot of potential bodily damage, and I don't have to retire at the age of 35. I can just continue to do it and challenge myself. And somewhere around, leading up to the Olympic trials in 2012, I said to myself that I'll be happy just chasing down this as far as I can do it. If I become an Olympian, that's great. That's a dream come true, right? Or win a medal or do anything like that. If I don't, if I can, if I can test for that, whatever I'm able to do, I'm gonna be happy with that, and then I'm gonna move on from there. So I knew, a couple years leading into that I was no longer gonna do it. It's been hard to not do it over the years. I've wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't think it was the best for me. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And for those that don't know, in other countries too, when you usually rise up in the amateur careers, sometimes you're almost like set for life. So that's why those guys don't go pro also.
Yeah.
I don't think that doesn't really happen in America, right?
Not traditionally, no. Traditionally, that amateur career is kind of like your college degree. That's the way I describe it to people, is like, all right, did you go to the local community college or whatever for like a year or two, which is great. Like, do that. But that's like maybe, you fought in your local Golden Gloves.
Yeah.
Did you make it to that national level? Did you get ranked in the top 10? Did you win any of these tournaments? That's when you're like in the Ivy League, right? Did you win a gold medal in the Olympics? That's when you're the valedictorian of Harvard or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the way I see that whole system.
Before we get into the business side, since now all this like celebrity boxing and all this different stuff is going on, if you had the opportunity, if you got the chance, would you box like a celebrity or like a YouTuber or anything like that?
Man, it would really depend. Like, it would depend. Yeah, I wouldn't say no to it. Like, show me the check. You know what I mean? Or like, it depends on who they are. If I feel like, if I feel like it would be good for the sport, then maybe, even if there's not a check involved, do they want to do
No,
that?
we're talking about getting you cashed out.
Yeah. Give me some names, I'll tell you.
All right. And then yeah, just going into the business side of things, like I know you went to where did you go to college?
I went to a school. It's a small private school in Boston called Babson College.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, man. So like in the summers and during when I was in high school, and then when I got out of high school, I didn't go to college right away.
Mhm.
And then I was going to like a community college actually to start to build up credits and stuff like that. I used to wash windows, and I had this older guy who's like in his 60s, and he built up this window cleaning business. He didn't even know how to read and write, barely, right? But he was able to build up this business. Like, awesome guy. And it was like a $1 million, multi-million dollars per year account, so super impressive. And he used to tell me we'd be driving through this town that's on the outskirts of Boston. It's like a really high-end suburb called Wellesley, high-end enough to where people would be paying us to clean their windows, right?
Yeah.
And we'd be driving through Wellesley, and we drive by this building. He had like, he's like an old guy, had that raspy voice, and he called me Flash. He's like, Flash, you see that place right there? You see that school? He's like, that's where all the big shots go right there. And he used to tell me that all the time, and that stuck with me. And I did some research on the school, and it's not like your Harvard or anything else like that. It's more underground. But when you look at the alumni and the businesses they started, and you read about the school, you go there, it's the size of a high school. It's definitely a different experience. If you're going to college for that party, fraternity life experience, you're not going to get it there. Kids wear like a shirt and tie there. They don't have to, they just do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's very conservative and business focused, and everybody there's on their grind, and everybody goes from there until, if they don't start a business, they go into like finance or accounting or management consulting, things like that. But the school is especially known for entrepreneurship. It's the only major, and if you go there, you study entrepreneurship. You have to.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I should have been looking into that when I was looking at college.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have
Yeah,
thrived there for sure.
yeah, then tell me about tell me about like your first business ventures and maybe like while you had a job and then you were still side hustling and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so while I was in school and stuff like that, and I was boxing, I would go in between back and forth to doing the window cleanings, put some money in my pocket. And then eventually I was growing up my client base to a point where I could just teach private clients, which was nice, right? Especially leading into the Olympic trials. I didn't have to work some part-time job or anything like that. I could focus on my training. I still had to go make money, train these clients, but it was enough for me to be able to like go to school, train, and then bring in some dough. I started teaching these heavy bag classes when I was like 14 years old, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And my trainer, a guy named Ed Lavach, he started giving me private clients and having me teach these classes as a way to like supplement my income so I could spend more time in the gym. So I didn't have to go, work at CVS or whatever else you do at the age of 16, 14, 15, 16. So that's how I started building that. I'd say that was definitely my first like entrepreneurial ventures. Like, I'm in school and I'm training and I'm doing that. I'm trying to figure out ways to make more dough through like referral. I started running ads on Facebook to get more clients, and it was generally successful. It was fun. I definitely made a good amount of money for somebody that age that was doing all that other kind of stuff. While I was in school, I got a really big opportunity in my last semester to do this internship with a fund, a VC fund, venture capital, called Highland Capital. It was like this academic internship. It was a group of 5 of us. And there was this dude who was like almost like our mentor in the group, but he runs the fund. His name is Bob Davis. He's the founder of Lycos, which was like one of the first ever search engines, like OG, like way back, right? And I remember, there were a couple other, this was like this class where students would get chosen to do these academic internships. There were a couple other companies, big companies, whatever. And the people who were running these groups, they stood up and they're like, oh, my company's, my name is this, I did this. This dude stood up, this dude, Bob Davis, he's like, I raised this much money to do this. I had this company, Lycos, I took this company public. I did this, I did that. Everybody else that stood up before him was like suit and tie, business, everything else. He had like a t-shirt on and jeans. And he just got up like a boss, sat down, and everybody in the room was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, dude, that's pretty cool. And that, that experience of doing that internship with Highland Capital, which is like they invest in tech companies, startups, we call, got me really interested in the venture space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. I think that's another cool thing about I just think like since the pandemic, I think everyone kind of I guess leaned back in terms of like, dress, like you have to dress up to be professional. Like you just wear normal clothes and still be professional. Like it's like a funny turn of events, but it's also dope for me. Like even like this right now, like doing Zoom meetings instead of like face to face. Like it doesn't always have to be face to face. It's like more convenient sometimes to do stuff like over the internet.
No, absolutely, man. I agree. And it's funny because the startup world, you think of the movies they've seen, they kind of started this culture of like, who cares what you wear? Like, you think of Mark Zuckerberg wearing the hoodie. It's like, I don't need to wear a suit to make a humongous business, right?
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a nice
yeah,
suit, right? When we take fight camp public someday, God forbid, I hope, and we're on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, I'm not wearing a hoodie. Like
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'm dressing up,
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
look like, Mad Men, the TV show. Have you seen that?
Nah.
With Don Draper, like back in the day when like they'd sit there, they'd go to the office in New York City, some ad agency, and they'd, be dressed to the nines and they'd have just be drinking whiskey at work.
There you
That's
go.
the age I wish I was born
Yeah, that would be
in.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now tell me about Fight Camp. I know you're the co-founder of it. You've been doing it for over 6 years now. So, and I know we've been in contact just via social media, and everything looks like it's been growing and growing.
Yeah, no, Fight Camp has it's been amazing. It's been a hell of a ride. It's been growing and growing but before all that happened, like it wasn't. Like it's tough,
Yeah.
man. Like, I joined up with my co-founders back in 2015. And at the time, my two co-founders, Khalil and Alex, they're from Canada, Montreal, Quebec area, and both engineers, and they had created by hand the first ever punch trackers, which prior to renaming under the name Fight Camp, we're named Hixo. We created the first ever punch tracking technology. A lot of people copied us. You might see them out there. At one point, Everlast copied us, and then they shut it down. Right? Other people out there copying us. It's funny. I get pitched by a different dev shop in China every day. They're like, we have punch trackers. No, we made them. That happens in business though. When you do some rights, it's flattery, right?
Mhm.
Imitation like that is flattery. So yeah, going back, to 2015, we had this like handmade product, and then to get from the point to where I now was a beast of an effort that we definitely underestimated. Because if we knew, they say this a lot about really hard things, right? Whether it's you're trying to be the champion of the world in a sport, or you're trying to start a business, if you knew what was ahead of you, it would stress you out a lot more. The winners, I think, are always overly optimistic. They think it's like, whatever, I'm gonna get it done.
Yeah.
Right. And but as of late, the company's been growing like crazy. We recently raised what's called in venture our Series B round. So in venture, it's usually you start with a seed round, you raise a Series A, Series B, it goes on from there. And the goal is to eventually, for some people, it's to sell the company to exit. For some people, it's to keep it private. You see Elon Musk, he just bought Twitter and he wants to turn it private, right? And that's a cool strategy as well. And then, for a lot of companies, especially in venture, where you're taking venture capital, it's to take the company public. So that still a independently, owned company, but yeah, you put it in the public market so that early investors, employees can get some liquidity.
Yeah, that's dope. And then
Yeah.
I know you did some work with Mike Tyson, so tell me about that experience because I can't imagine what that was like for you.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so Mike Tyson actually invested in our Series B round along with some other athletes, George St. Pierre, Francis Ngannou, Usher, the singer Usher,
All right,
really
that's
cool
dope.
guy. Well, it's Catherine Winnick, some other people, right? So Mike invested his own hard-earned cash in there, and that's an honor, right? To have Mike Tyson believe in your company and your vision. As part of that, we're also doing a deal with him. He comes in and shoots promo with us. And I was able to meet him for the first time about 6 months ago. And it was an experience, dude. Mike Tyson gets out of the SUV, and there's just something different about his presence.
Yeah.
That's something like, it almost sounds like, woo-woo to a lot of people, but to me, there's something to presence. So the way somebody carries himself, the posture, it's like the energy they give off. There's something different about Mike, and you can feel it right away. But right away, man, he comes in, the man, super nice guy, really interested in the business. Like, we walk around the headquarters, he's asking questions. What is this? What is that? We had specific instructions to have a plate of watermelon and blueberries. This is what he likes. Right when he sees the plate, full bare hand, whoosh, grabs this many blueberries, shoves them in his mouth. So man, I love blueberries. We sat down, did an interview, which was crazy, insane. He got up, hit the bag a little bit, and left. And then he came back a second time recently, and we did a little bit longer of an interview. And that to me was really special because we just vibed. It was awesome. It was a hell of an experience.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like me just working with athletes ever since like probably like 2012 was when I was like, I can't be starstruck anymore, and then I got to be like professional. But like, there's a few athletes that I would definitely be starstruck, and Mike Tyson would definitely be one of them.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Like even a couple weeks ago, I was at actually one of the celebrity boxing events, and Roy Jones Jr. was there, and he walked by me, and that was pretty cool just to see him in person. He's actually like kind of smaller than I thought he would be.
Yeah, honestly, dude, Mike Tyson was smaller than I thought he would be.
Yeah,
he's not tall, right?
yeah.
He's like a maybe an inch taller than me. I'm 5'9". I know they list him as 5'11", I think, but I think he's maybe 5'10".
Yeah.
But he's big.
Yeah.
Like his body, he's like a refrigerator. And I was curious, how old is Mike? Is he 50 now? 51? Something like that. And I was curious to see, like, can he still move? Right. So he hit the bag in front of me, and PG, man, I'm telling you, it was impressive. Like, this man, the way he can still explode and get leverage on his punches and the speed that he has was really impressive. And it's not just the power, it's his ability to put punches together in combination still.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, he's 55.
55, yeah. So, he's built right. He's maintained a lot of that fast twitch muscle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even when we saw him fight Roy Jones Jr., I mean, he looked better than Roy Jones, in shape more than Roy Jones Jr. did.
Some people are able to maintain. It's crazy, man. I follow boxers and, like, obviously box from the past, stuff like that. I remember one time I saw an interview with the great Joe Frazier before he passed away, rest in peace. And he was older, he's in his 60s, and they grabbed the bag and like, all right, I want you to hit this bag, so he puts on the gloves, and I'm expecting him still to be dynamite. And he starts hitting the bag, and I was like, man, I think it's maybe a cognitive thing. Yeah. There's something about the mobility or something like that. So I didn't know what to expect with Mike, and then Mike hits the bag. He might as well be some light heavyweight young prospect still, the way he hits the bag. You wouldn't believe it. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. And then what's the future for Fight Camp?
Man, just growing that subscriber base. We're doing some really cool content, experimental stuff pretty soon. We're gonna be shooting in a couple weeks with some professional fighters. So we have Chris Algieri is going to come in. That's supposed to be on the DL, but I can leak that here. Chris Algieri is going to come in and give us some news on give some information to our users on nutrition. So he's got a master's degree in clinical nutrition. He's a genius when it comes to that stuff. So we're going to film a whole module with him on nutrition for our members. So that's definitely new. Trying to really broaden out the offering. We recently added strength and conditioning to the platform for people as well. So before that, it was just bag workouts, boxing and kickboxing. And now strength and conditioning as well. We're going to add this nutrition stuff. So continuing to add value to the platform, just grow out that user base.
Yeah, that's dope. And what advice would you give to like a young entrepreneur or a young boxer or both?
Yeah, I mean, shit. A young boxer, like, and a young entrepreneur, There's no rest, dedication. That's it. Every single day counts. You know what I mean? So like whether it's, business, you should be on that, especially when it's early in the game. There's no weekends, man.
Yeah.
That shit doesn't exist. You're a boxer. It's like, oh, I'm in between fights and I'm gonna chill. My friends, say you're a young fighter, I'm gonna chill, or I'm gonna drink, or I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna do things like that. That shit catches up to you because, like I was telling you earlier, man, just from being involved in that amateur system for so long, you know, being in all the national tournaments for all them years and stuff like that, and seeing these guys from the Errol Spencers of the world to the guys that, fought at the same level as him that you never even heard of because they're probably just as talented. The difference is that they don't put in the same amount of work.
Yeah.
That catches up with you over time because once you get to that highest level, that's, everybody's at a similar skill level. So it's like these little margins that count the most, Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for some fun questions?
All right, let's go.
All right, who's your favorite boxer of all time?
Man, like favorite in terms of skills is going to be Floyd Mayweather. You just can't touch him. How can you touch Floyd Mayweather? Favorite in terms of societal impact and all that, just favorite all around. I'm picking Jack Johnson. And he's throwback OG. But what a lot of people don't realize about Jack Johnson is that he's the you'll read it and you won't see this. He's the first heavyweight champion of all time. Because before Jack Johnson, heavyweights wouldn't fight heavyweights, right? Not all heavyweights would fight heavyweights. Like the heavyweight champions back then wouldn't fight anybody other than other white heavyweights.
Yeah.
And the way that Jack Johnson faced that obstacle, there's an amazing documentary that Ken Burns did on the life of Jack Johnson. If you haven't seen it yet, everybody should watch it. It's free on YouTube. And it's probably the best documentary ever made. The way that he made that happen, he manifested that. That's like that athlete confidence and that self-belief. There was no way he was going to live and then die without that fight happening. And he used a lot of these tactics that fighters use nowadays. He used the media. So wherever the heavyweight title was happening, Jack Johnson would be there. And he'd be talking to the newspapers. And he'd be talking his shit. Yeah. Right? And he got it to a point to where he got the public wondering, I wonder what would happen if, this dude fought Jack Johnson or that dude fought Jack Johnson. And it just, that momentum, it built and built and built to the point where he got the media and the public so interested in that question that he was able to raise the money to make it sort of like, an offer that the current heavyweight champion at the time was a guy named Tommy Burns, couldn't refuse. And it was an easy fight. Yeah. It was an easy fight for him. And it answered that question. So I love Jack Johnson, the GOAT. He's Jackie Robinson before Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, for sure. That's dope. I got to check that documentary out.
Yeah.
What do you like to do in your free time?
Man, work out. I try to stay disciplined myself. That's how you're working out is so important to your mental state, your performance, even just as an entrepreneur. You have to get up. Your body was meant to move. Sunlight, you need to get sunlight. All these things matter so much to your performance. So I stay in shape. I kind of have to for work because I'm one of the trainers on the platform of Flood Camp, and you can't have your trainer not be in shape. Otherwise, you're looking at the platform, you're like, I don't know if this works. I don't know if there's anything here. So that's important to me. And just hanging out with my wonderful girlfriend, hopefully my future wife, Guarino. We do a lot of fun stuff. We went off-roading last week for the first time. She's always pushing me into adventures and things like that. So
that's dope. Last one. What is something that people don't know about you?
Yeah, something people don't know about me. That's a good question. I don't know. There's probably a lot of things, but then it's like, do I want to share? I'm not sure. I mean, something people don't know about me. I do yoga on the side. Could you imagine that?
All right. I like that. All right, Tommy. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And could you let the listeners know where they could find you at?
Absolutely. On Instagram, at Tommy Duquette. Definitely check out Fight Camp. It's fightcamp.com. That's it. We were able to get that URL, or at Fight Camp on Instagram. Check us out on YouTube, everything else.